welcome to another episode of STORYHIVE on location in Nanaimo with Beats, Eats, and more. I am your host, Kazi, and we are broadcasting live on the unceded ancestral lands of the Nanaimo First Nations, of whom we have utmost gratitude, love, and respect for being the original stewards and protectors of these lands and these waters. I learned recently that Nanaimo means great people. And today on the show, we have a great person. Her name is Holly Bright, the visionary behind Crimson Coast Dance in Nanaimo, BC. Since 1998, Holly has been weaving contemporary dance, community connection, and cultural innovation into the fabric of the city through standout programs like Dance on the Crimson Coast, Body Talk, and the InFrinGinG Dance Festival, which is happening right now.
Hey, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for being on the show, for bringing these wonderful golden raspberries. This is my first time trying this. It's quite remarkable. They remind me of salmon berries, but a little bit more, like you were saying, floral and fragrant.
Yeah. One of our board members grows them in her backyard and blesses us with them every once in a while. It's really a special treat.
Yay.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought those on the show. I'm glad that you made time out of your busy schedule in the thick of a 10-day festival. I'd love to start, this interview talking about the very beginning of how your earliest memory that dance really moved you and impacted you.
Well, I've always been a mover and always expressed myself through my body. And I have three brothers, and so we played a lot. It was a very physical family, and I started dancing when I was very little, and then we moved to a farm, and the nearest dance studio was like 25 miles away, and we were in miles in the US, and so it was really hard to get there for my family. So I ended up kind of working, or not working, but playing softball, and gymnastics became my thing. And then when I went to university, where I went to school, if you had a full load of credits, 12 credits, you could have more for free. And being, it's kind of what we do in the US, how can we get more for less? So I decided that I couldn't take any more academics and looked for something physical, and there were some ballet classes for adults. And so I was 20, and I just signed up for adult ballet class, and it was twice a week. I fell in love with it, and if you signed up for a course, you could take more classes. And so I just went to all the classes that I was eligible to take and fell madly in love with it. I was on my way to physical therapy career and realized that I would really never know the outcome of my passion for dance. It had been fully awakened, and unless I went for it. So I completed a BS in science, human physiology, and then a BA in dance, and moved to Manhattan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So where in the States was this that you had gone?
Ohio. Yeah,
Ohio.
the University of Akron.
Okay. Oh, Akron, Ohio?
Yes, yeah.
I have learned recently LeBron James is from there.
Cleveland.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so then in Manhattan, is that also where you continued to dance?
Oh, yeah. That was the whole purpose of being there. And I mostly worked with what we would call regional dance choreographers, and created or choreographed an off-Broadway show, which was really fun, and played in one, and then had the amazing opportunity to work with Nina Wiener and Senta Driver, who were OGs in the dance world in the U.S., the modern dance world. And Senta Driver was a postmodern dance choreographer, and it was just such a privilege to work with her. And little choreography, a little teaching, and holding down 5 jobs to pay for my apartment, and all 5 part-time jobs.
The New York lifestyle as an artist,
nonstop. Yeah,
that's so exciting. That must have been a really exhilarating time in your life.
It was before the revitalization of Manhattan, and so there was a lot of excitement on the streets, and just a city that literally never sleeps. You could get anything, anywhere, anytime you wanted.
And then how did you go from there
Right?
to here?
Yeah. Well, I came for love, which is what a lot of people do. And this area has a wonderful sailing community, and there's a passion for sailing that I have and my former partner. Excuse me. And so it was kind of a yes. I had been in Manhattan for 7 years and felt that I was ready to move elsewhere. It was really hard to make a living there and do the work that I was doing. And at the same time, I had 2 colleagues who took a dance class with me at Corvino Studio, who were moving here at the same time. One was going to Ballet BC and one was going to Simon Fraser University.
Okay.
Yeah. And so it meant that I would have community here. Yeah. And we moved to the island because my work was more flexible and I traveled back and forth.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's lovely.
Yeah.
Getting a piece of the big city and then the calm and it's beautiful out here, y'all. Like the water.
Yeah, it really
and
is.
even just being able to be like immersed in trees and access to water.
Yeah.
That's a really nice balance.
Yeah. Yeah, it's stunning. And it would be hard to imagine moving back. And that, I started to realize that within, I would say, 8 years. I think it took me like 8 years to really land here and understand that that it offers other things than the big city vibe. And
what are those things?
Well, it offers that potential for rooting, for grounding, for really communing with nature and understanding and maybe at first I didn't realize this in an intellectual way. I might not have been as aware, but through my body I was experiencing the stunning effect of being surrounded by nature, surrounded by greenery, floating on the ocean, and seeing Nanaimo from angles that some people never really get to see because of the sailing. So there was just a kind of landing and separating from the literal frenzy of Manhattan. It's a megapolis. So 6 million people on an island, which is, at that time, it's probably more now.
Yeah, that's actually a really cool comparison because now in my mind I was visualizing Manhattan, the shape of the island, and then Vancouver Island and the shape of the island, and just the difference between the two.
A huge difference.
Huge difference.
Yeah, I mean, literally, when I arrived, I was just looking around, just classic tourist, and we walked into the New York Public Library, all marble, huge heights in the ceilings, and the beautiful, beautiful architecture, and I was like, this is where I want to work. And I applied for a job, and I got one that day.
Wow.
they just needed work, and it needed workers, and it happened to be this perfect timing. So I worked in the gifts section 3 hours a day, and I had a regular schedule, but the beauty of Manhattan is that there's so many artists and so much flexibility required. So they would allow me to go for auditions or a special class, and just really kind of orient my schedule around theirs. And
that's so cool. Is that the library that's right by Bryant Park?
It's the Fifth Avenue. Yeah, the main library.
It's very fresh in my memory because I spent the summer in New York last year.
Oh,
It was really great.
It's very exciting.
So then how did we start Crimson Coast Dance Society?
Yeah. Well, I stayed in Vancouver a couple nights a week. I was there every day to train and audition and meet people. And as I would move across on the ferry, I was able to just experience the landscape and the sunrises and the sunsets. And then I decided to, I'll park that idea for a moment because I decided to bring a show here. And it was a piece that I created based on The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman, which is an early feminist piece of literature. The artists who were performing in it had their own pieces, so we made a full night. We ran it 2 nights. I knew I needed a stage, some advertising, a dance program, and an audience. And there was really literally nothing like that happening here. There was Theatre One, which had its roots in Shakespearean theatre, and the symphony, and some community theatre that was happening, and the art gallery. And that was it.
Wow.
So yeah, it's really changed so much. And so I wasn't sure. There were also 3 schools at the time, and it was so well received, and I was invited to teach, and just started to be invited in a way into the community, embraced, and I realized that maybe there is a way that I could make a place for myself here and commute less. So I started to bring shows over. And
cool.
Yeah. And my very first experience of producing was when the very first Fringe happened here. And I was teaching and had a group of adults, and I said, do you want to do a show? And they did, and so we created some solos, and I was working in the school, so I had some of my students perform, and brought Sylvain Brochu over to perform from Vancouver. And that kind of started Crimson Coast, and I was commuting back and forth. The piece that I worked on with the adults had this theme that arose out of that creation process. I had asked them to bring something that was meaningful to them, whether it was a poem or an object or an idea. And all of them, save one, had something that around the color red, scarlet, blood, passion.
Wow.
And I'm commuting back and forth, and on the way home, realizing that the ocean, or that the landscape moves from a crimson or pink, rose, orange sea, which becomes black as the mountains start to reflect that color, and then they become black, and then the sky reflects that color. And I thought, oh, this is just a crimson coast.
Yeah.
And it's like, ta-da! We have a name for the company that we were gonna form.
We love alliteration.
I know, right? And then the first show was called A Scarlet Folly.
Wow.
Yeah, which kind of represented a folly, which is a fun performative event, as well as a garden ornament, and also a mistake. So just a combination, a lot of metaphor wrapped up into that. Yeah.
I'm really amazed that you've been doing something for 27 years.
I'm an OG.
You really are. It's like, it's this now, it's love. This is the Korean heart.
Oh, okay.
So you cross your thumb and that makes a heart.
Nice.
But then they also were doing this heart, and then there's also this heart, where it's your index finger making
these ones tuck in.
Yeah, these ones make the
That's it, Holly. Yeah. I can do it. I'm shaking. I'm nervous.
No, and then what the young people do is they connect. Like I'll do you if you remove that one, I'll do it with you.
Oh,
like that.
oh.
I love it. When the young people were teaching me that one too, I was just like, I love embracing all the new little.
I know.
Yeah.
I feel like I miss out on so much, and I absolutely am fed by youth and realizing how fabulous it is to not know some things, and to support those wild ideas that seem wild to me.
Yeah.
And are at the same time.
For me, I love the evolution of slang and colloquialisms.
Yes.
Like the first time someone taught me what YOLO meant, I was laughing so hard. Like, you only live once. This is great. Like, YOLO. That's old
I'm
now.
gonna start using that. I know.
You're like, I just learned
I'm always
that.
just a little bit behind. That's okay. It started happening about 15 years ago, 20 years ago. Yeah.
What has it taken for you to keep something going for 27 years? I'm sure like you probably iterated and learned so much along the way.
Oh, yeah, a lot of iteration. Passion, absolute passion for the human body and how we express ourselves, and how important it is to to be in this body aware. And I feel that dance is this extraordinary messenger that can subtly enhance somebody's experience of that, because when we watch things, we kind of move along. So even if we're not thinking of it, we're participating.
This is true.
Yeah. And and then the artists not only perform on stage, they also engage with the community. So offering those opportunities for people to experience expressing it through their bodies.
Over the years, what have you seen as the impact of presenting dance and creating Crimson Coast Dance on the community?
You know, I often have these moments of, does anybody care about this except for me? and I know I'm surrounded by brilliant people who have a passion for dance, either dance as an art form or the somatic values that we experience through dance, and also friends who love me and want to support what I'm doing. And I think that the impact has been both personal for a lot of people. Some people have chosen to stay, they tell me, because of the art scene and because they have been dancers and they realized what was happening here. The work that we do, hands down, is not available in most centers outside of major urban centers, which is really, really fantastic to know that we're offering these opportunities and people don't really have to leave town to have them. So, and I kind of also think that it paved the way. I did a lot of bushwhacking, and I started in '96, right?
Yes.
So, and then the container of a nonprofit charity formed around it in '98, when the funders contacted me and said, "You really want to think about, you know, how you're working and what you're able to bring to the community, the greater dance community, through more official wages." And you know, my crew wanted to be paid. It was really interesting when I first started. The only people paid were the artists. All ticket sales were just split between artists, and that was acceptable at the time.
Yes.
And we've come a long way. And the crew volunteered. Amazing individuals: Robin Boxwell from VIU, Sophie Mayer, who now works at the Nanaimo Museum.
Yes.
And John Carter, who still designs our lighting. He was with the Shadbolt Center.
Wow.
Yeah, so brilliant people who gave everything they had to all their skills, all their talents, and passion for performing arts. And so it was about 8 productions later when they suggested they'd like to get paid. And
Yeah. You're like, yeah, being a not-for-profit, actually, there's a way.
Yeah. So at that point, we were able to form a society and a nonprofit charity and access funding. And the funders were really pleased to see this kind of thing happening in a satellite way.
Yes.
Not too far, and far enough from Vancouver that it does have an impact.
Definitely. I also come from working in the non-for-profit arts world, and it is challenging, but it's also like, if you're doing something that is for the greater good of the whole city, of society and arts and culture, that it's definitely deserving of sustainability and resources. And I've seen a lot of amazing organizations in Vancouver become non-for-profits, or like get their act together and become something so that they can then start accessing these funding sources, which is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it has its challenges, right?
Sure.
And it's not unlike starting your own business. So depending on the model you wish to create and the place you wish to hold in that, and then stakeholders that you want to collaborate with, then you make your decision. Like, am I doing this as a business or am I doing it as a nonprofit? And I think that there are challenges to both and values to both. Yeah.
I'd love to know the inspiration behind InFrinGinG Fest. You know, because you mentioned just now that you were part of Fringe Fest. is this kind of like an offshoot version?
Well, what happened
Yeah.
was the Fringe started here in 97, 98.
Okay.
And is that right?
I
Because we started I brought my
Yeah.
show in 96.
Yes.
And then actually working with the community started in 97.
Yeah.
So, starting performative practices with the community. So the Fringe chose us in 97, 98. We did kind of a mixed program event. And what was clear was the floor was not suitable for dance at all, barefoot dance, which is, well, the shoes that we wear are our feet.
Yeah.
And the lighting, there was no lighting really. There was I think a local massage therapist volunteered to do the lights, and that was so generous of them. And and they were really intuitive, while I realized that there was more to what we were doing and that it required more. So we decided that we would do a dance festival alongside, and ours would be InFrinGinG. And so it was going to be the same time, same place, and we were same places, except we were, same city.
Yeah.
We were going to use more safe venues. And we started to convert the Harbor Dance studios into a theater. Christy Lights from Vancouver would donate 2 tons of equipment. We'd go over, pick it up, schlep it up the fire escape, created this theater, and ran our shows. So then Fringe went away. And so we continued with InFrinGinG, because in part also that very first show had Sylvain Brochu was very much into his Buffon stage. So he was really practicing Buffon and contemporary dance. And Buffon, you never know where the joke's gonna land. He described it as spitting into the air and just watching where it would hit, in terms of
Risky business.
I know, right? And because it's sassy. And so InFrinGinG kind of made sense in terms of infringing on your senses and infringing on your sensibility as well. I love metaphor. It kind of drives me also. So that all made sense, and then Fringe went away, and it was okay still, because contemporary dance does infringe on our sensibilities of what performing arts are. And then Fringe restarted maybe about 10 years ago, I think.
Okay.
And they're at a different time of year, and we just really haven't had much of a relationship except the circling summertime activity. And so there was a new artistic director, and we're going to meet after their festival and figure out what our relationship is again, and see what we can do to enhance
exciting.
that. I know, right?
Have you been to the original Fringe that started in, I think it's
at
Edinburgh?
No.
I would love to go one
Me
day.
too. We should do that.
Yeah. I actually participated in Manila Fringe in the Philippines. I don't know if you know about this, because I saw in the program, we'll get into it, but about the dance films, the online dance films that you're showcasing. So my friend and I participated in Manila Fringe because we did something he started. He's a director named Valino, shout outs to Valino, and it's called Moments of Movement. And it's a one take of a dancer freestyling and moving in space. And we've done chapters in different cities, Singapore, Kuala Lumpur, Manila. And so in that, over 3 weeks, in 10 days, we filmed all these dancers. I think it was like 10, 12 dancers. And then we had a screening as part of Fringe of all these Manila dancers that we met, spanning from house, hip hop, whacking, hustle. It was really cool. And the magic of just the one take. Yeah. So Fringe is really cool. I love that it represents everything that wouldn't fit in a traditional sense, you know, and gives a home for us. And I was looking at this program and I was cackling because I'm like, this is amazing. Truly. Very different, very like inclusive of so many different bodies and people. Like We have a splash mob. It's like a flash mob, but with water. We have a dance party with a tug of war, you know, and a lot of different residencies and workshops. I would love to hear from you. What are you really excited about for programming this and what's to come?
Well, it's always exciting. I always say this is the best year, and you know, every year. This year is actually smaller than in the past. We're, you know, taxiing back to the runway after COVID and in the new economy. And what I realized as kind of what percolates is what becomes a part of the program. And this year it's really all about identity. So I was reflecting on that over the last few days, and like, what is the thread? And you know, I'm aware of it, and at the same time I'm really happy about it. We're shining the light on dancers here with disabilities and their creative process, and putting a performance together that really gives voice and presence to their being in Nanaimo. We're hoping to, this is the third year that they've created one, and this year we were able to bring production values to the experience and learn about sensory sensitivities and how to make a safe space. So that's been fantastic. We're hoping that our long-term vision is that we have a little company and that they actually get paid, the dancers. So this year was the first year we were able to provide an honorarium, which was really exciting.
Yes.
Yeah, and then Sid Ryan Eilers from Eilers Dance Theatre is bringing work that it goes from workshop to residency to performance, and really focusing on identity, highlighting the joy, celebration, and uniqueness of everyone, and in particular and including trans youth, trans people, and the LGBTQ IA2+, Two-Spirit Plus community. Yeah, so we're really excited to have Sid. Nanaimo is becoming a more friendly place, and we're really interested in supporting that, and again, making space for voices that are underrepresented. We have an amazing hip-hop community here, developing through Vibe Academy, who spearheaded that movement, and we're in our second year of a battle as part of our festival. And then we have a day of Indigenous dance curated by Cetacia White, who is from Nanaimo and also Hupakasa First Nation. And it's kind of a gathering of nations in a way. Various dancers from various nations and their families will be coming to perform, so it's really exciting. And our tug of war, again, a metaphor.
Metaphor.
I mean, there are some serious tugs happening in terms of the wars that are taking place, and the wars within, the wars globally, locally, within. And we're kind of looking at how can we take that and turn it into something that is working and standing together, and toward common causes for positivity and place, positivity and acceptance. And we kind of don't really know what that is. It's a creative process. I'm working with the listening field, Danalia Castell, who works as a nature communicator and connects humans with nature as a practice.
That's really powerful.
It's very powerful.
I wish I was here for the whole
week
week
come on
to
over.
experience that. That's amazing. I'm so curious about your curatorial practice. Like, how do you program this festival / your other work as well? Like, where do you come from when you decide this goes together with this, or I'm going to? Yeah, I mean, I think we're all meaning makers. And there's a way that at first when I had the programming together, I was like, what's happening? This is unusual, because often it's very culturally focused, like in terms of traditional cultures and in terms of the programming. And really it's us, it's our identity that arose. And this is what is happening at the time. And these are the artists who either proposed or I've been working with towards bringing them here, and for the festival in and of itself, it arose in that way. So a lot of times the work is organic, so to speak, and the work that I generally tend to present in the main stage programming is
I'm really fascinated by work with metaphor, work that surprises me about myself, work that has an aha moment or turns a corner that we weren't expecting. Yeah, and I'm also, since the pandemic, I've been looking to support hybrid work. We have a show in the festival where two dance artists who we started working with during the pandemic digitally and across nations. We went to the Nordic region and hooked them up for some online interactivity, just play during the pandemic, and then it became about having a piece at the end. And now these two artists who are local have decided to work together, and they've built a show that is a kind of guided tour through a park that's a bit of a treasure hunt, because at various
I saw that in the program.
too. Quantum Conversations, Two Traces, The Other Within is what the title of that is, and you walk through the park, and at various sites there's a QR code on a beautifully designed map by an Emily Carr artist, and you bring that up with a QR code, bring up a dance that happens on that site. And during our festival, they're going to perform a live presentation on the last site. It's really exciting. It's going to be available throughout the year. And so, we look to promote and work with artists who are innovating and to learn how to be a good presenter for those innovations, to understand how to determine the costs that are going to make it fruitful and easy. And I try to decenter myself. So I'm kind of really only curating one show every year now. And even there, sometimes I'll bring in the community and say, here's the Dance West network of artists. Who would you like to see? And so we'll have this little gathering of people who will view the artists and choose. And then I have a board member from Mozambique who does some beautiful work as a teacher through her Afro-Sharqui fusion workshops and classes, and a very strong advocate for Africa and knowledge about Africa and the scope of the continent. She choreographs, and she also curates our programming during January, February. Suki Sangha, who just received the Honor and Cultural Award from the city, curates an event called Glimpse of India. So in a way, I started curating everything, and based on those values and ideals that I shared. Meanwhile, all of these other brilliant minds and artists came to town, and it just makes sense to give them voice, because we have the platform right now. And what's really fantastic is they're starting their own platforms and their own experiences and events where they maybe came saying, I don't know how to do this. And then after like 3 years, Tanya's creating her own events. And it's very exciting that could potentially be a dance community here with a lot to choose from and a lot of different styles. And
it's happening. Yeah. It's definitely happening. And I feel that. I'm actually seeing a lot of parallels with what I've noticed within Vancouver as well. It takes that, first person or a couple of people to pioneer and knock down doors and be at City Hall and advocate for the red tape to get cut down. Yeah. And once that happens, it's like the floodgates are open, and that sharing of each one teach one, the sharing of like, this is how I did it. This is what I learned. Don't do this way. Yeah. And we get to stand on those shoulders to be able to like then create from that place. And that's really, really cool that what I'm noticing and what I've heard here is that part of your curatorial practice is creating that platform to include others to also develop their curation practice, or to start it and begin it.
Yeah, well, being an OG,
that's right.
I'll probably want to break at some point. Yeah. And I want to be able to come and see shows and to have the arts community thriving as a person who takes it in and enjoys it from a different different angle.
For anyone who is wanting to learn or get into presenting, curating, what advice would you give them based on all the things that you learned and things that you know that this will save you time and trouble?
Wow. Probably ask a lot of questions, and I was a Girl Scout, and it was like be prepared. So was the motto, and I like to be ahead of things, and I find that the broader our scope gets and the more programming we do, the harder that is. So surrounding oneself with other people who are like-minded, and fortunately that's growing in our community as well, who actually know what contemporary dance is. That was the biggest first step. I think making sure there's somebody who has organizational skills and business skills would be a really wise thing to do. I kind of, like I said, I knew I needed a stage, a program, an audience, and dance, and there's so much more that I needed. Yeah.
How do you build those authentic relationships with people so that there's that sense of trust in you to do what you do? I guess I'm just thinking about it in the perspective of, I've seen over the years, like people initiating and wanting to create an event or present something, but there's the challenge of like really building authentic relationships.
Yes, yeah.
You know, and then that you lose trust, or maybe the misalignment of intentions and values. So I guess for someone who I see as such a community builder and connector, like how do you build those authentic relationships with people, especially like we were talking about earlier, like to create and work on, you know, Nanaimo First Nation land and
yeah, what a privilege, and what an eye-opener, because in the States, although we know of a First Nation history, the difference in knowledge and awareness and living amongst our hosts is just not available to us. And moving here, it was probably a dozen years before I really realized and saw who I was walking amongst and started to really understand a little bit. And that was because I learned that a family from Nanaimo, Paul Wise Seward family, performs shares their traditional dances that were handed down through Paul's family. And so I was like, oh, would you mind sharing those, you know? And so that relationship started, and it was so beautiful to witness, in hindsight, to witness its unfolding, and that I was required to have a different kind of approach to it, and to be patient, really, because I could call you, never having seen you before, or in the Western dance tradition, and say, hey, can you come and perform? You know, and here's the date, here's the time, okay, and this is the money, and da-da-da, you know, the fee, and it would be done deal. And it was different. I remember the first time we met, we went for tea at Starbucks or a coffee, and it had been a little while, and I had to have my contracts to get the funding from the funders for the festival that Paul's family was going to participate in, and I had that contract in my back pocket. And I was like, well, we'll get it signed today, you know. And we had about a half an hour conversation, and it was just so beautiful to listen to him tell the stories of how the work was handed down. And then he stood up and said, I'm going to pick up my children now. And I was like, okay, you know, it was beautiful to meet you. Thank you so much. And he laughed, and I was like, oh, okay. What am I going to tell my funder? And so I called the funder and I said, listen, this is how it goes, you know, and we need to be able to work with that. And really, those were early days when traditional dances were never considered at the funding table. They were like, oh yeah, but that's traditional, you know. And so we're looking at contemporary dance, right? So it really had this elitist. Even though I don't believe that contemporary dance is elitist, it had this quality at that level. And so I was so relieved when the funder helped me work that out, and we never really had to have the contract. And now I always hesitate with contracts because I understand that they're not kept as in the way that they should be, the treaties and the work that is being done. And it trickles down, right, whether it's conscious or not. And so it's been interesting. Like, I've played with many different kinds of contracts, and I've been, I'll say, laughed at because of them sometimes when I've presented them to various artists who maybe have a lawyer relation, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay, you're not, you know, it's very special when people will joke with you and tease you from this Nanaimo Nation, or from any First Nation. Like, I think if you're teased and joked with, it's a good sign, you know?
Yeah.
And so I'm learning as I go, and understanding that meaningful relationships are what they are, and how critical they are, and also that they're just really basically human. And I wonder how I ever got away from that in the first place. You know, it's really about just being human with each other. Same with working with people with sensory sensitivities, neurodivergence, and disabilities. You know, it's like, oh, how do I approach this? And it's like, how about asking questions? How about providing as much autonomy as possible, and listening, and avoiding forcing a structure or a way of being.
Golden nugget wisdoms in that whole clip just now. Actually, though, thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that's what you said is so valuable, because it's true, especially if there is a contract, verbally, money exchange involved for your service or your talent, your skills, which deserves to be compensated and like feeding you in your life, because we live in a material world, right? But it's like how we go about those relationships and the approach. And I love that in this story that you shared, you just listened and you were present, and it mattered to you more to build a real connection, and then understanding what that contract actually meant, and also historically what that's meant. I think that's really inspiring, Holly. And I think a lot of young people and anyone who's watching this can learn a lot from that approach.
I learned a lot, and I've made a lot of mistakes, and I think well, two things. I'll talk about communication skills next, but I also just want to say that I believe that we require to walk gently, humbly, and graciously amongst some very patient, generous hosts. And I had to start asking myself what that looks like. And the language comes from the land, and there's a way that the protocols and practices, the dances of the people, all create the culture. The language, the practice, the protocol, traditions, they all create the people. And when any one of those start to dissolve, then the culture starts to dissolve. And I was hearing this, and decided that I would ask if I could sit in a language circle. And I'm so grateful that Gary Manson and his son Adam invited me to do that, embrace that request. And I've been able to learn some of the language and to use it. And my understanding is that when we use the language on the land, it blesses the land. And so with the patience of the land as I practice, I really invite people to start to integrate the practices that were here before us in the first place into their world, into their life, and through doing all of that, we begin to understand each other more, care more, and then those relationships can evolve. Yeah. So It's just that, what can I do to honor this land and to honor the people who came before, and then carrying that over to my relationships with Western dance artists and other performers who I get to cross paths with. Yeah, so cool. Invitation. And then in terms of communication, I wouldn't say I started life with good communication skills, and that I still practice those learnings, because that is really key. Listening, putting away my immediate desires and or putting them aside until it's the moment to share, and also no matter who I'm working with, presenting myself, the work that I do, and then seeing if there's an embrace. And if there's not an embrace, it's okay. Like, no answer is a no, or a no, not now. And so kind of understanding that, and then also taking responsibility for any infringement that I might have caused, and having those conversations and understanding how to have those conversations, or at least making a space for them. They don't always happen, which is unfortunate, but it's important to make a space for them and make the invitation and be able to bear when someone is not happy with a situation that maybe arose out of a presentation, or something went wrong technically that shouldn't have, that would have been easy not to. Posting something that was not really right.
Yeah.
So I've learned how to say, can you create 3 to 5 posts for me? Trying to use their words instead of my words in describing the work. Yeah, so just a lot of mistakes, and being okay with those mistakes, and not letting that, get in the way, other than to learn from them. Yeah.
That takes a lot of humbling yourself.
Yeah.
And really, because it could be so easy to feel discouraged and not keep going. But like remembering that why you're doing it, and that it's, a platform and something that is now grown to become bigger than yourself. I'm speaking to myself as I'm saying this too, because sometimes it is really hard to be in community. You can't. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, you've done this kind of work in the street community in Vancouver,
dance,
and with this program.
And it's easy to sometimes like let other people's thoughts and opinions affect you, instead of actually looking at like, what is the constructive criticism here, and what parts are true, and that you can't please everybody, and everyone's going to also have an opinion, and sometimes those opinions aren't right. And I've really relied on like a really intimate, closer friends and people who I work with in community that I know have my back and can tell me like, okay, like this is where I think this was wrong, or blah, blah, blah. And to do things the right way.
Yeah, to be teachable, I think, and willing to hear those things, and create a space for someone to tell me those things, and own them. It's like so easy to blame and shift blame.
We're human.
Yeah. A fun fact that not a lot of people know is my birth name was Humble.
Really?
So it's Holly Humble Bright.
Oh my God.
I know, right? Yeah. And I thought, that's a lot to live up to. So I think I'm going to just go with Holly Bright for a change, move myself up the alphabet.
Yeah. Why
embrace my former husband's name,
Why did your parents call you Humble?
That was our given name.
Oh, like the last name?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. Hilarious, right? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
If you could leave one lasting impact on Nanaimo's cultural landscape, what would it be? And how do you imagine dance continuing to shape future generations?
A lasting impact. I feel like I still have work to do in just really raising awareness around the importance of embodiment and the place of embodiment.
What does that mean for anyone who doesn't understand?
We are human meaning makers. We live and breathe through our bodies. We connect with the world and each other through our bodies. And we express ourselves through our bodies. It's the first movement, is the first and last experience of life. It starts with cellular movement, cellular breathing, and it ends with our last exhale, right? And even like people say, oh, I'll dance, I don't understand it. And it's like, oh, but you do. And just allow that poetry to, you know, roll, just kind of flow over you and let yourself feel something. And so there's that, the ability to be in your body, to understand, and what that means is understand how you feel. Understand how you feel and what that's making you do. What are you choosing to do based on how you feel? And I was talking with Jamal earlier about how valuable street culture is, street dance culture, because especially young males are practicing and learning their range of strength. Females as well. Like we are all learning our range of strength, and how the value of that in terms of our relating to other people. Like, when do we use strong strength and when do we use light strength? And so if we touch, we'll use light strength unless we're doing a lift, or unless we're doing a trick, you know, or something together or by ourselves. So what is the range of strength is really an important lesson that young people can learn as they move through life, and when to use the right level. So embodiment is that, and then just kind of the more we understand how we feel and how that is reflected through our body and through the expressions that we have, we become more connected in terms of our posture, like the position that we're taking, what we're speaking, how we're communicating, and what we're actually saying with our body, our gesture. So it's a posture-gesture merger. And when that's there, we're comfortable, we're safe. We understand that the person is being really present with us. When it's not, we are recognizing that something's a little bit off, and we're not really sure what that is. And so the more that we can take how we're feeling, understand it, and express from there, the more truthful we are as an organism, and the more honesty can take place in our relating.
Whoa, you broke it down. From the first breath, cellular movement, to the last. That's cool. That actually made a lot of sense to me.
I'm glad. Yeah. Sometimes I go, and I'm just not sure if it's making sense.
No, and it's very poetic, but also literal. Like, in terms of, I think sometimes when people start hearing the words somatic, embodiment, like without having heard that breakdown, it's just like, oh, what is that, you know? And that painted a different picture for me that no one's ever really presented in that way. And it makes sense, especially that we're these souls in these meat suits in this lifetime, you know, and to connect more with that, because it receives so much information and it outputs so much information. And in the end, that is how we relate with one another and also with nature and all living things.
And it sounds really beautiful, and it's a journey. We take things in and we carry them like on our back, you know, and just and how do we process that so that we can be a whole human being and understand, therefore communicate better and have a more pleasant
time
society.
Here on Earth.
Time here on Earth. Yeah. Everybody should dance more of the time.
For real. Rapid fire fun questions.
Okay.
You ready? First dance style you ever fell in love with?
Contemporary dance.
Go-to snack during festival week?
Wow, that's make sure I eat.
Like, doesn't matter what, just make sure I have something. Choreograph in silence or with music first?
It's really depends. It depends on what I'm thinking. Yeah, both are
You've done both.
inspiring. Yeah.
What's a book or film that's deeply inspired your creative practice?
I don't know if I can articulate that.
That's okay.
Yeah.
We can move on.
Okay.
One word to describe the Nanaimo art scene.
Growing.
Yes, we like that word.
Yeah.
What's a dance piece that changed your life?
I guess it would be Martha Graham. I don't even recall the piece. It was the production in Cleveland, Ohio, when I was just graduating, and that's when I knew. I was like, this is what I want to do, and that's who I'm studying with. So that was one of my first studios that I went to in Manhattan. Yeah, when I moved
Amazing.
there.
Martha Graham, legend. If you could time travel to witness any moment in dance history, when and where would you go?
I think I would love to see Pina Bausch's company and probably the iconic Rosa's premiere.
Okay, where was that?
I think it was in Belgium. Yeah.
Dream artist you'd love to collaborate with, living or past?
There's a lot. I would love to collaborate with this isn't so rapid fire, is it?
It's okay.
Wow.
You can name them all if you want. Doesn't have to
Yeah.
be one.
Well, I love Margie Gillis, and I would love to collaborate with Margie Gillis and Evan Siebens. I actually had a chance to collaborate with on film, and I'd love to do more of that.
Cool.
I love collaborating with Genevieve Johnson, who is a local dance artist. And historically, it would be great to collaborate with Pina Bausch, for instance, and Sammy Sheehan is a really fabulous artist. And
Yeah.
he did some work with us, and I'd love to collaborate more with him.
Yes. Chimerix?
Yes, Chimerix, yeah.
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 Shout outs to Sammy. They got married
I
this
know.
past weekend.
I know. I would love to have been there.
Yeah. They did
Festival.
a festival. It's so cool. Stage or studio or club or park, where do you feel most alive dancing?
Stage.
Studio, club, or park?
I really love the studio. Yeah, stage is brilliant. It's the next expression from the studio. Studio is fabulous. You really have to love that practice. Jennifer Maskell from Maskell Dance said, when my children ask me what I do for work, I tell them that I go to an empty room, and my work is what I do there. When I arrive, it's empty, and when I leave, it's empty, and I work all day.
I love that.
I know, right?
That is so
yeah.
cool. Favorite moment from a past InFrinGinG festival?
There have been so many. The first year we did Quailish at Swailana, which is dancing at Swailana Lagoon. So Tassia White curated a cultural festival celebrating Indigenous cultural dance, and we do our festival co-located with Dragon Boat Festival. And about a half an hour into the performances, a family of killer whales came into the channel, and the dragon boating had to stop. And they just played up and down the channel for a little while, and then they left.
Oh
And
my
I'm
gosh.
sure that they were called in.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is absolutely magical.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
You can't plan that.
No.
No. Oh, that's a good one. Do you have a personal ritual before a big event or premiere?
For when I'm performing, or when
Or both, actually. Yeah, when you're performing or also when you're presenting.
I think just making sure I'm breathing. I feel my feet. So just whatever moments that I can take. If I'm performing, it's different. It's kind of like a 2-hour ritual and warm up. But in terms of presenting, I just like to think about what is happening right now, because there's such a lot of work that I'm focusing on. So to go, okay, wait, why am I here now, heading out to stage, and who am I talking about? And just landing myself in that, and my feet on the ground, and some vagal breathing exercises.
So helpful.
Yeah.
Love that.
Mm-hmm.
What does community mean to you at this stage in your journey?
I think it means play. Like, where's the play? Where's the fun? Where's the play? Where's the laughter? And how does work become that, and that become work? Yeah. Or I mean, do I mean that? I don't know if I want anything to become work anymore. I'm ready to just play.
Yes.
Yeah.
Your favorite way to unwind after an intense production?
Sleep.
Period.
Yeah.
Last one. What's a mantra or phrase that's guided you through challenges in your creative life?
What do I say to myself when things get challenging? I think I just know that it's going to, that things will work out the way they do. So in some way it's keep moving forward. Keep moving forward. Yeah.
Is that a mirror moment?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I love that practice, actually. Like, I do that too before I'm about to speak, or if I'm going to host something. I like have a moment in the mirror, and I like really look at my eyes. I'm like, oh, I don't look at you enough.
Yeah.
You know, and just have that moment of, yeah. For me, the message is like, you're okay.
And not losing my own identity in the process of sharing and doing, and moving out of the way. All those things, making sure that I'm present. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, Holly, this has been so great. It's been so nice to sit down and chat and learn more about your journey, learn more about this amazing festival that you and your team have put together that's happening this week in Nanaimo. Yeah, I feel energetically wise just inspired, uplifted, but also like, because in the same way of curating and producing in my own lane, like, I feel like I took a lot of notes and learned from you and your vast experience of doing what you've been doing for almost 30 years. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. And believe me, none of this would happen without a lot of input and people and energy. So I'm really grateful to all of the ways and all the humans that have made this, built this into what it is. And just fortunate enough to be the eyes at the front of the ship at the moment. And also, just to say that I've listened to some of your TED Talk, and just was also very inspired by what you're doing and how you see the work that you're doing. Thank you so much.
This has been awesome. Yeah. Y'all, from July 3 to 13, it is happening right now, the 27th annual InFrinGinG Dance Festival. If you want to learn more, it's crimsoncoastdance.com. Once again, this is Holly Bright. My name is Kazi, and thank you everyone who's tuned in on the live stream, who's going to watch the replay after. We appreciate you. Y'all have been watching Beats, Eats, and More.